What's up, guys? It's Meg, and it's that time of the week again where we get to look dead ahead to see what's coming on next week's episode of The Walking Dead. Today, we're discussing our predictions for Season 6, Episode 3, called Thank You. For some reason, this title, Thank You, sounds really cryptic to me. I'm thinking someone might die. I will tell you who it is in just a minute. I want to start out with saying I believe this episode will strictly take place with Rick and Glenn's group. We are not going to see anyone in Alexandria, as far as I believe. We're going to start out with Rick, Glenn, Michonne, Nicholas, Heath is there, and some of the other Alexandrians that were working on the plan. They're going to meet back up. For some reason, Rick is going to split off from these guys. I believe that Glenn and Nicholas may have some plan to set up a fire, set up a distraction for the herd. We hear Glenn tell Rick this over the radio after Rick splits off from the group. So Rick is running. He's running as fast as he can. We see this in the sneak peek. I've heard a lot of talk about people thinking that Rick may have got bitten by a walker as he's fighting these walkers. I wanted to explain this scene real fast. I'm sure most of you understood what was going on here, but I wanted to explain in terms here. You see this walker right here that has a machete sticking out of his shoulder blade. It goes in his back and out his front. As Rick stabs this first walker in the head, his knife blade breaks off, staying inside the walker's head, and he's left with just the handle. The next walker is coming at him pretty fast, so he has trouble grabbing his machete out. He throws up his left hand, blocking the walker from coming at him, sticking his hand right underneath the knife blade. Now, as he chops into this walker's head with the machete, he slices his hand on the knife sticking through the walker's chest. So we can put the theory to rest that he has been bitten. He has not been bitten. He's not going to lose his hand. Robert Kirkman has said multiple times that he regretted cutting off Rick's hand in the comic books. So that is not going to happen in this TV show. We need to stop thinking that. I do think that they pay homage to the comics by frequently injuring Rick's hand in the television show, but that is all it is. Rick's hand will be fine. As we heard Glenn say on the radio, they are in a town nearby. They're hoping to cause some sort of distraction to bring some of the walkers away from their path to Alexandria. Now, if we look at this image here, we see Nicholas up front, Michonne, Glenn in the background holding an unnamed woman who we do know dies based on the Comic-Con trailer. She will get eaten by walkers 100%. She's already injured, so it's likely she'll be unable to manage her way through all of the walker herd that is surrounding these guys. Heath is in the background. There's another guy that he is supporting who is also injured. That guy, I don't have his name, but he was also on the run with Heath along with the woman with the braid when they were gone for a couple weeks. So I believe they are probably pretty close. There's another unnamed Alexandrian man in the back. So obviously right here, I believe that they are looking at tons and tons of walkers. So they've made it to this town, but the walkers are everywhere. Because they have two people that are injured with them, they're going to have a difficult time fighting off this many walkers. So I believe that Michonne takes everyone except Nicholas and Glenn to a house for refuge. But there's so many walkers surrounding the house, they don't stay there long. We see some pretty awesome fight scene here with Michonne fighting off walkers at the door all by herself. And then these guys potentially escape. Now, I could be out of order here when I'm saying these scenes, but this is just what I think is going to happen. Now, Glenn and Nicholas continue on with their plan. They need to set a fire to distract the walkers to give Rick a better chance to get ahead of them. It sounded like the walkers are about 20 minutes behind where Rick is currently. So they're trying to buy him even more time and get some of these walkers away from Alexandria. We see them running in the street here. Glenn has a backpack. Now, I'm going to call it right now. I do think that Nicholas potentially dies in this episode. We've seen him trying to redeem himself twice in episode number 1. He wants to prove himself, to prove that he is a good person, that he is not the same person who, abandoned Glenn and Noah, causing Noah's death. So he wants to prove himself. I have a feeling in this episode he's going to do something very brave that is also going to get himself killed. We later see Glenn running through the forest alone. So, I could be off on where that scene with Glenn by himself takes place. That could take place in the beginning. I don't know. But it makes a lot of sense to me. I really think they're leading us towards Nicholas's death, and I think it's going to happen in this episode. This is not a prediction, but just something kind of funny. Look at this walker on the very right-hand side here. All of the other walkers look legit. They look old, decrepit. And then there's this guy who looks like a possessed demon. I thought that was pretty funny. Meanwhile, Rick has made it back to the RV. We see his injured hand here. He is on a mission. Now, he is in the RV. He's driving away. We also see him firing a gun through the RV window. So we do know that he comes into some kind of contact with some of the herd. Now, I'm wondering, one, either he is rushing back to Alexandria, which I think is probably 90% chance that he's headed back to Alexandria to try and, head off these walkers. But there is a good chance that if Michonne and the rest of that group, Heath or Glenn, needs rescuing, there is a good chance he could have radioed to Rick saying, we're trapped, we need help. And so Rick is turning that RV around and going back for them. Now, last but not least, we have Abraham and Sasha, who are in the car, and Daryl on his bike. They were the ones leading the walkers. They were directly in front of the walker herd, trying to lead them away from Alexandria. Now, we know that when the horn blasted, all of the walkers started heading off into the forest, turning around, going the wrong way. So I think that right here we're seeing Daryl and Abraham and Sasha trying to come up with some kind of plan. Daryl is going to go off whether he circles back and tries to head off the walkers, I'm not sure, but he's definitely going to separate from the group. In the Comic-Con trailer, we saw him walking his bike through the woods. He eventually loses his bike. But before that, we see this scene here. Daryl is on his bike. He's looking down, and there are no more walkers behind him. If you look very closely in that bottom left-hand corner, he is stopped on the road, and there's no walker herd behind him. So I have a feeling they have failed. All of the walkers have stepped off, off of the road, off of their path away from Alexandria, and now he has to try and figure out what to do. And that is the point where he then goes off into the woods, trying to maybe herd the walkers, do something there, and he ends up meeting up with our three strangers. Now, I do not think we will really see any of this during this episode. If this happens, this is going to be like a very final ending. They're going to close out the episode on this note where Daryl is in the forest alone, or he meets the three strangers. The three strangers, which, I've said before, we think maybe Dwight, Amber, and Sherry from the comic books. But will this get resolved in this episode? No, absolutely not. We're going to see episode 3 be all about Rick, Glenn, Heath, Michonne, all of their group trying to get back to Alexandria. We're going to see more deaths, potentially Nicholas's death, and then maybe the ending part of the episode, we're going to see Daryl in the woods. Now then, moving on to episode 4, I think we'll go back to Alexandria. The herd will arrive. People will be picking up the pieces from the wolves' attack, and we'll move on from there. So that is it for my Dead Ahead predictions video for Season 6, Episode 3. What are your guys' predictions? Let me know in the comments below. We can talk about it more there. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share with your friends. And I will see you guys next week with my reaction video for Season 6, Episode 3. Thank you. Hope you guys are having a great day.